Welcome back. Hope you're having a good morning. The Gift Nifty is suggesting it could be a more or less flattish to a mildly positive start, but there'll be plenty of stocks that we're looking at. So let's discuss a few of them. We just ran you through the list with our research team. Deven Choksey joins us to help us out with some analysis on the same. Well, Deven, before we talk about all the top stocks that we discussed, what about HDFC Limited? Well, in the current scheme of things, or in the current form, it's the last day that HDFC Limited will be traded. There could be some bit of a rejig, because we'll see the Nifty Bank, well, the constitution of HDFC Bank will go up because the HDFC Limited will come into HDFC Bank. How do you approach these heavyweights from here on?
Hi, Nigel. Good morning. As the weight rebalancing would be the requirement hereafter because of the merged entity. So obviously, we expect the amount of money to flow into the HDFC Bank, of course. But along with HDFC Bank, I think other index weights are also going to get adjusted, and that is where probably you are likely to see participation of banks like even IndusInd Bank along with HDFC Bank. As far as I think the higher amount of allocation of money goes into these two counters, that might cause some amount of disruptions to existing players like Axis, like ICICI, to a certain extent, where I think some amount of outflow may take place out of this counter. But considering the fact that this matter is known already to the market, I would also like to believe that I think to a greater extent, this entire exercise has been probably rebalanced, has been carried out, I think, all along at this point of time. Not that I think everything is going to start fresh hereafter. So to a greater extent, market price may have already factored the possibility of rebalancing. Maybe to a certain extent, I think you could see the participation increasing for likes of IndusInd and HDFC Bank. And that's where we remain confident. Fundamentals have not changed. On the contrary, fundamentals look as reassuring as they were before. And on the top of it, I believe that I think the bank's ability to lend in the current environment has actually, I think, moved up very sharply. And that is where probably we could see better half year as far as I think the second half of the financial year goes for most of the corporate banks, given the kind of balance sheet size that they are.
Deven, hi, good morning. I wanted your thoughts on TCS. The numbers are expected to be lackluster, but do you think a lot of it is already in the price? And at any point, would you look to accumulate?
Yeah, good morning, Sonia. Yes, obviously, I think most of it, I think, is in price. I think in this entire last quarter, or even for that matter, all these 6 months, if you look at the performance of most of the IT counters, the front end IT companies, TCS, Infosys, HCL Tech included, I think more or less the muted order book position is already factored in. Having said that, I think their already signed order books are basically resulting in giving them the power to execute this particular business which they have already signed in. The question here is that whether the force of the new orders would be as same as it was before last year. That is the question. Maybe that is where I think one would like to hear the commentary from the management. Because on one side, if the world is moving in the area of computing, and at the same time, I think the tech like I think the AI, the ML, the AR, VR, on this particular front, I would think that Indian IT service companies would have relatively higher amount of business to corner eventually. Maybe in a couple of quarters from now, I think when you see some amount of dust settle in the global market, I would like to believe that Indian IT companies would start receiving the normal order inflow, which they are currently, I think, not seeing the visibility. So current result season probably, I think, give that direction. In my viewpoint, if the price corrects to a sharper action, then possibility of, I think, buying emerging into the market would be there. So one would keep an eye on falling price to buy back into this particular stock in the portfolio.
Okay. All right. We'll just come back to you in a bit because Deven Choksey is still with us and we're going to talk about several other stocks in focus. But before we let him go, Deven, just one final comment from your end on all of the defense stocks that have been running quite a bit. I mean, the government is, making a lot of progress in several areas in the defense space. And we've seen names like Mazgaon Dock rally substantially. But someone who's missed out on this rally entirely, is it too late or can you still enter? And if yes, which are the stocks you're looking at?
So I think many of the defense stocks, Sonia, have actually ran up ahead of time in anticipation of higher amount of business, of course. And fortunately, I think it is not only anticipation, but I think a calculation also at the same time, because the order books are known to many of these companies. So to a greater extent, I think it is a predictable execution, that is for sure. However, nothing else said and done, this is going to take time, and these are not going to happen in 1 or 2 quarters. This is, I think, a long-term journey. At the same time, in defense business, governments, basically the buyers, obviously the margins are always going to be tight or squeezed. In such situation, the companies which are generating higher amount of surplus because of the inherent strength that they have, they would be the ones, I think, who should be looked at more carefully. I think most of these companies currently are having fair value price as far as I think their outlook is concerned in immediate term. I would probably, I think, wait before buying into it. So we like some of the companies which have been ancillary to defense, and some of them are the main supplier to defense. The likes of solar industry, which is a main supplier as an OEM to defense, or even for some of them, other companies like DCX Systems and among others are also having, I think, a defense portfolio as far as I think some products are concerned. So we selectively look at those companies, but not necessarily chase them at this point of time.
Okay, all right. Deven, final question before we let you go. What about Delta Corp? That's likely to be the stock of the day, right? It's possibly not something that the management would have been looking forward to, but GST being implied at around 28% on the chip sold itself. So if you go to play, you want to play for 100 rupees, you'll effectively have to pay 128 rupees. Even the winner actually will be in trouble because he'll have to win more to make some profits. How do you approach the stock? It's likely to get slammed in the start itself.
Yeah, I think it is possible that I think this is going to be a situation going forward. Maybe I think people will choose other destinations outside the country to play. Those who want to play, I think they'll definitely fly out and they'll play in the nearby destinations. That is what my guess would be.
Okay, all right. Deven, stay on. We'll come back to you in just a bit. Also